Welcome, everybody, to episode 1 of Pops and Dragons. This week, we're going to talk about Wizards of the Coast's new book, Tash's Cauldron of Everything. We're going to begin our adventure with a high-level view of character creation for beginners. Have a little discussion at the end about playing at a table versus playing online, and showcase an epic battle between two of the most common undead, zombies versus skeletons.
But first, we drink.
I got beer all over myself.
Of course you did. I got ice water all over myself, too. All right. So,
what are we drinking here, Paul?
What are we drinking? So this, first off, this week's sponsor, again, I got a little one. This week's sponsor is Ninepenny, again, out in CBS. We talked about them last week. They were gracious enough to give us a different beer this time. So this week we are drinking the New England IPA. It is called a Blinding Light. Not indicative of any sort of state that you're going to be in once you're done drinking it. We do encourage responsible drinking, obviously, but it is a little bit different than the beer that we had last week. The beer that we had last week was a red. This one is a New England IPA. And just to give you, I think, a little bit of a rundown of what a New England IPA is versus what a regular IPA is, because a lot of people kind of get turned off from the phrase IPA because they think, oh, it's super bitter, or that's only for hopheads, that's only for people that love craft beer. Mm-hmm. But no, this one is super easy to drink. The difference is that this is an East Coast, hence the New England part, and they brew similarly, but they hop it differently. So the way that you get a West Coast IPA essentially is you boil the hops and you extract all the bitterness from it. When you have a New England IPA, instead of boiling the hops, you add most of the hops in the after it's come down off of the boil, so like say 95 degrees, I believe it is, and then you extract all of the juiciness and all the flavors out of the hop that way without getting all the bitterness. So the flavors in this right here are like grapefruit, stone fruit. I get some of that. Yeah, so it's got that citrusy kind of flavor to it. And I talked I talked too much at the beginning of this. I need to take a drink first.
Man, yeah, drink up. Come on. the beer's delicious. Don't get me wrong. I like the story that kind of go behind the Blinding Light too. Like last week we talked about like the Riot Red, which had that farmer who was like, I'll cut you open.
Right.
This one's a little bit less gruesome, but still pretty cool. If you wanted to explain.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's. I thought you were going with that.
No, I don't know that well.
Yeah. No. In the 1930s, there was a pilot leaving from New Jersey, and they were heading to. They were trying to establish a faster transatlantic route, is what it was, and I guess on the way up here, because there's tons of fog here. On the Avalon, they got lost, and kind of as they say out in, for those people that live in Newfoundland, will kind of get this reference is that it's always shining in CBS, which is where the brewery is located. Anyway, so as they flew out of the fog and were hit with the sun with this blinding light, they were able to see Harbor Grace and then land there. And of course, Harbor Grace has a lot of aviation history as well. I think there's something with Amelia Earhart there as well at some point in time. Don't quote me on that. But so the name, the beer is named after the fact that he saw a blinding light and after flying over CBS and was able to land. So they thought that was a pretty cool way to name that beer.
It is neat, tied into their locale. A little bit of history there.
I thought you meant locale. I was like, the beer is definitely not locale. It's craft beer.
No.
It is one of the more stronger beers that they have as well. I'm a fan of the stronger beers. I do like drinking less, if that makes sense, and still get the same effect. So, but that's our sponsor, and we certainly appreciate it. We were going to be linking the website and everything as well on our social media, and when this is on YouTube, we'll link it below. But certainly, if you're in the area, check it out. They do have beer in Marie's and sometimes in the NLC as well.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's our sponsor for today.
Thanks, Ninepenny.
Thank you, Ninepenny.
The idea we had here is when you're making a character, it's a lesser known rule of character creation on page 160 of the player's handbook, is there's a trinket page, and it's a list of 100 different trinkets, and they don't do anything. They're just role play devices, silly kind of items that you can use to kind of help with your backstory. So myself and Paul, being more of the min-max character creation variety of people, decided we could use this as a bit of a way to improve our role play skills. So every week, we're going to roll a D100 and see what our trinket is and come up with a random character idea for it and see how that goes. Maybe we'll roll the same one twice in a row and have to be really creative.
That'd be a challenge. Or maybe not.
I mean, it can happen.
You probably think about a bunch of stuff anyway, right? I think about a bunch of stuff during the when you had it the first time.
Yeah, that's true. or we find something completely foolish and we just get completely stumped.
All right, so I think we're good to go here now.
Yeah, roll that dice.
All right. Okay, so this was the blinding light. If you guys wanted to see that I was trying to get up early, that I couldn't get up. But we're good to go. If you do want to visit them at ninepennybrewing.ca, you can take a look at all the beers that they have. Dice roller. So if you guys don't know about this, Google has a dice roller. You just literally Google dice dice roller, and it'll bring this up. So you can add whatever you want. You click the roll, and it'll roll it for you. If you need more kind of thing, if you want multiple ones, you can roll them all.
Let's be honest, everyone we play with has way too many dice.
This is very, very true. I'm looking at half the people in this chat right now. You can also do modifiers here too, which is really, really cool. So if every single time it's going to be a +4, you can do that. And then just click on them to get rid of it. So we want
That's actually pretty cool. God love Google.
Yeah, Google has stuff for everything, and it's wild. So we want a D20, right? No, D100. So that's
2 D10s.
I guess so. I thought there was 100.
First one's 100.
So it's 103.
So it's 13.
So.
Ooh.
So while I was trying to do tech and everything, you explained how the whole table works and everything, right?
Yep. So a 13, I believe, is a tooth from an unknown beast.
A tooth from an unknown beast is our trinket for the afternoon.
I can take this one.
Okay.
Unless, I got an idea. Because I think this would be a neat backstory, because as a DM, I like when characters come or players come with a hook, something I can, integrate into the story. Right. So if you're playing a ranger, it doesn't really matter what your ancestry is, but if you were playing a ranger and you just had this tooth, and I don't know, you could go the stereotypical, this monster killed my parents, and then, all I have left is this tooth I took out of my mom's skull or something. I don't know. Or you go the lighter route and just say, this town or this monster, I need to find my own tooth that matches this one in order to be accepted into my tribe or something, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this whole monster hunt, I like the side quest.
I like the dead mom's tooth. That's metal. I'm into that. But that's the fun thing is, and we'll get into this later too, is that neither of us realized how important it was to actually have role play prompts. It's a lot easier when you just pick random things, right? It's a lot easier for the DM as well. If you just say, hey, I've got this thing, and then he'll work it into the story too, right? I know that when I started to DM, I did my one shot, I latched on to things that the players had told me. And just because of the fact that I was like, okay, good, I can work with that. Like I'm starved for creativity or starved for something, right? So that works.
Yeah. Cool. Our first trinket.
Our first
unknown tooth.
An unknown tooth. We should keep track of all of these. Actually,
I'm gonna write it down.
100%, and we'll probably tweet out some fun stories and see what people want to use. We'll see what people want to use or can come up with.
There was some rules in that kind of book, those kinds of books, but this one's a full rule book and kind of almost an update to our player's handbook, which is pretty neat. Off the top,
which is wild because I've only been playing in 5e. Obviously, you played a couple different editions. I've only been playing in 5e. I've only ever had the player's handbook and Xanthar's whatever guide as well. So like these books were kind of just there when I started, and the only books that have come out since then are campaign books.
Yeah. I mean, it's something. I mean, you have your core rule books, right, which are always going to be your core, your player's handbook, your DM's guide, and your monster manual. But your Volo's Guide to Monsters, Mordenkainen's. I mean, those are there's some new ancestry races. There's new subclasses. Sometimes there's new classes. I mean, that's some real meat in there,
right, that
you can use.
Before we get into the meat, who's Tasha?
So Tasha is it's based off of a kid who actually drew in crayon a little letter to Gary Gygax way back in the day. And he used that name Tasha to create Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which is a spell that's been in D&D since the first edition. And it's actually kind of a little dark, however, because the character Tasha in D&D is actually a pseudonym for evil wizard. I think it's I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Iggwilx or something like that. Like I don't know.
I'm not going to attempt it.
It's a demonic name is what it is.
Right.
The character's very focused around raising demons and making deals with devils and that kind of stuff. She was an evil character who kind of became Tasha in a group of campaigners back in the settings of first and second edition. But she's super powerful, right? She's birthed demigods and made crazy deals with the devil and stuff.
That's not where I thought.
Tasha's Hideous Laughter named after her, which is an incredible spell.
That's not where I thought you were going when you started off with it was named after a girl who wrote a little girl who wrote a letter to Gary Gygax in crayon.
Yeah, it took a weird turn after that, but it was the 70s, I guess. So yeah, you mentioned that there was a bunch of new subclasses and everything as well, which is super cool. I think one of them that was featured there last week or 2 weeks ago is one that I'm really interested in. It was a Necromancer Warlock, I think, was it? Yeah, and it's not confirmed that that's in there, but it's very likely. If any of you guys follow the Unearthed Arcana stuff that D&D puts out, it's very likely that all those you've seen come out in the last while, like that Necromancer one, will very likely be in this book.
I'm super stoked about it because I made a homebrew Necromancer.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. The one I'm the most stoked about is actually a Warlock. Subclass. It's for a genie patron. And basically, you pick your own genie. You kind of get to homebrew like what vessel, like you're a lamp, and kind of carry around your lamp with you, and it gives you abilities. Like eventually, it'll give the warlock the wish spell, which is insane. I mean, usually that's reserved for wizards, sorcerers, and some bards. So another avenue for your players to get that spell is just
the DM in your
awesome,
cries.
in my opinion. Well, yeah, it's a trick, right?
Yeah.
There's some other cool stuff though. Like, I mean, there's a whole pile of new spells, new magic items. There's rules for magic tattoos, which if you watch Critical Role, I don't know if they're taking that idea from Matt Mercer, but he has a rule set for you crush gems and you use the gem dust to like tattoo like stat increases.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know if that's going to be the same, but like when I think magic tattoos, like who knows?
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool.
And then they're going to have rules for like sidekicks and stuff, which is nothing they really had before. Like right now, if you want a sidekick, you kind of got to make another player, which is, anyone who's played D&D, I mean, those character sheets get pretty intense. And running a whole second character can be tricky.
So could you realistically with the tattoos, magic tattoos aspect or a condition or whatever it's called, just like go to a tattoo parlor every single town that you go in and just get new tattoos and get new stuff you can do?
It would depend on your DM. But I imagine they'll put in some sort of attunement system.
I 100% would get multiple tattoos.
I'm sure you would.
Don't.
Another cool idea, and this is something we kind of do in our campaign, is I think it was in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, the Magic the Gathering campaign guide.
Mm-hmm.
They had this idea about group patrons, and not in the idea of like a warlock patron, but almost like a company. Like if you work for a thieves guild, or if you work for a company of mercenaries, that if your whole party decided, we all want to work for this one group of people, this book is going to lay out some benefits that your DM could give you for doing that.
Right.
Like some people you could go ask questions to, some like some sidekicks, easy ways to get quests, kind of direction, give you a spot to stay for the night in towns, travel, I don't know, could be anything. It's neat. Anything that kind of, obviously you could homebrew these things, but anything that kind of gives you some more, hard rules, take some of the guessing out of it, right?
So would it still be similar to the warlock patrons where they're like, the majority of them are pretty evil and kind of want to take over the world?
No, I mean, they could be good or evil. I mean, I don't think the alignment would matter, but they would certainly be demanding.
Right.
If you want to work for the paladin of whoever, lawful good, I mean, they're probably going to want you to go spread some good in the world, right?
Could you maybe have a genie group patron?
I don't see why not.
That'd be pretty cool. Just carry him around your party all the time.
Wish spells for everybody.
Right.
But the coolest thing, I think, though, and this is going to be the biggest, they've already said this is the biggest kind of chapter of this book, right, is they're kind of moving away from calling the races. They're moving into calling them ancestries. And in that light, right now, when you make a character, your race has specific plus and minus stats. So, a dwarf is always going to be stronger and have more constitution. Your elf is always going to be more wise and maybe dexterous. But getting rid of that in Tasha's College and everything, there's going to be an ancestry tree. So you make your dwarf, but you follow this tree, and theoretically, and we're not sure the details yet, like you can make a dwarf with elven traits. Like, why not?
That would just ruin your entire life.
Yeah, I would. I'm fundamentally against it. But
as somebody who loves dwarves and hates elves.
Well, but I mean, you could do some cool stuff. Like, why not have a halfling that has the Goliath or the orc, last stand ability? You know what I mean? When you get to that 1 hit point, or 0 hit points, you get a chance to pop back up to 1. Like, why couldn't you be that halfling that trained as a barbarian?
I mean, I think it opens everything up, right? Which is kind of cool, because beforehand you couldn't do any of this, right? You couldn't. Couldn't be anything. Right,
and it made your choices a little bit harder, because if you wanted to be a wizard dwarf, for example, it was a wizard, you want intelligence, but the only way you can get intelligence stat is to be a gnome. Like, what if I don't want to be a gnome? What if I want to be an orc? Right. Why can't it be a smart orc? Yeah. Not all orcs are equal.
Right.
They're not. It's not like the faceless crowd at the Battle of Isengard.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, and you look at, obviously World of Warcraft isn't D&D, but there's a lot of very, very smart orcs in that universe as well. So I think it kind of makes sense. So
yeah. My personal hope, this is fingers crossed for this one, is that you can make a Tortolin with Aarakocra wings. Like a flying turtle would be the coolest thing. Like, I don't think that's how it's going to work, but like, fingers crossed for flying turtles.
I'd be down with a flying turtle. Just out of the humor. That'd be amazing. As a DM, would you allow it, or?
Oh yeah, why not? It's a magical world, man. Turtles can have wings. I don't know. Grew up with ducks or something.
Fair enough. As long as pigs don't have wings. So that's the news for this week, or the last couple weeks, actually, seeing as we just started and we haven't had a news section yet. There's a ton of news that kind of came out over the last little while, but that was the most recent one. And it's going to pretty much change people's, can change how people play. So we decided to focus on that one there for this week. The next segment that we have, it's kind of a segment for to add a little bit of silliness into the game. It's for any DMs that, if you want to give your players a magic item, but you don't want to make them overpowered too early or something like that. Or even just for some flair. Again, what we talked about earlier with the opportunities for role play, right? Those role play prompts. It's a lot easier when you have little things like this. So this segment is the useless item of the week. We talked about it last week.
So useless.
We determined that last week's item was actually potentially useful, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Indestructible endless rope. Bad idea. Moving on. Moving on.
So this week's useless item of the week is from Xanthar's Guide to Everything. It is the Cloak of Billowing. We'll link it in the description of the YouTube video afterwards. But basically, just while you're wearing the cloak, you can use a bonus action to make it billow dramatically.
Like, I just picture like the Superman pose on top of the like Daily Planet spinning globe with his cape just waving in the background, right?
Totally, yeah. It's a common item. It's not hard to come by. It's magical, obviously. But it only has the one item, and it can add a lot of flair to your character. You can use a bonus action as you run into battle and make your cloak billow as you do it, or if you know that the big bad evil guy is about to die, you can use your bonus action and chance and hope that you don't miss and billow your cloak just before you kill him.
See, as a DM, like, I really do think if you use this at the right time for like an intimidation check or a persuasion check or something like that, I would definitely give you advantage.
Well, there you go.
For a well-timed cloak billow, 100% advantage on something.
We're going to have to rename this section to slightly useful item of the week.
Yeah, supposed to be useless item, but for the lulz, why not?
Because we're 0 for 2 right now on it.
Yeah, at least this one wouldn't break the world.
This is true. And that's just a side note as well. In our campaign, and I certainly did this in the one shot that I ran as well, but Tilly gave us magic items very, very quickly because they were fun and exciting. And now after playing for 2 years, it is pretty powerful. It is fun, but like how do you one up that once you've got a +1 weapon? Well, is it a +2 weapon? Is it a +3 weapon then? I mean, where does it stop? So it's something that I learned to have fun items and not necessarily like stat boosting items, because half of D&D, if not more, is the role play and the fun too, right?
Sure.
So that's our useless item of the week.
I like some of the in-game chats. Min-max build with Cloak of Billowing. I think we can make one up.
We'll put our minds to it this week. I'm committed to that. All right, so our next section.
Yeah, so this is where we're going to get a little. I know you're all here for the entertainment, but this is going to be a little educational. I apologize.
Well, we wanted to make sure that we had people that had something to be, or that could take something away from, everything that we talk about, and not just be entertainment once a week, listen to us ramble on kind of thing. So
yeah, this one, I mean, we figured you'd start baseline, right? So this week, the educational topics, we're going to do a really high level of how to make a character. You never played D&D before. It's the first thing you're going to have to do. And it's complicated. It's not easy. It's not necessarily straightforward. Once you get into the game, it is, but actually making that character and understanding, the steps of making that character is difficult. So we kind of have it broke down into the 6 steps of the way we would do it. So we'll go through those, but best advice up front for anyone in chat who hasn't, or anyone listening who hasn't ever played D&D before and wants to make a character, I 100% recommend you use a website like D&D Beyond. As a character creator, it walks you through the steps. It's very well made. There's other ones out there that use the standard rules that Wizards of the Coast put out for free. You're limiting the number of ancestries and classes you can choose from, but at least it will give you an idea how to make them.
This stream was also not sponsored by D&D Beyond or Wizards of the Coast.
But it's a good product, right? And we've came about it ourselves kind of naturally, we'll say. So, it's a good way to do it.
We definitely use it. And the more that you kind of dig into it, the more useful you find it. There's a lot of, as you play, like pen and paper is a lot of fun. Obviously, a lot of people prefer to do it. As somebody who's really digital, I generally like to do things more digitally. But for D&D, for whatever reason, I like pen and paper kind of thing. So, but like if you can track hit points, you can track spell slots, you can track all that kind of stuff on D&D Beyond, inventory items, everything.
That's right.
You can even make up homebrew stuff as well in there as well.
It's pretty cool. But if you want to know the nuts and bolts, high level, of course, you all have your player's handbooks here handy, so you can turn to page 11. It's right at the beginning. The player's handbook is laid out with ancestry and then class. Hops and Dragons, we're going to recommend you start with class. And if you've never made a character before, there's 12 or 13 different classes at this point. I try to break them down into categories.
So the first step is to pick a category and then a class?
Right. Well, a category, what do you want? Are you you want to swing a sword? Do you want to hide behind a shield? Do you want to shoot a bow? Do you want to cast a spell? And then from there, you can kind of limit down your class choices.
So let's say I want to cast spells. We'll do this with the chat together.
Sure. So if you want to cast spells, your options are Bard, some Druids, Sorcerers, Warlocks, Wizards.
And they all cast differently, obviously. They all cast
different spells.
All right,
We're not going to worry about that.
No, we'll get into that in another video for sure. But let's say I want to do I want to make a sorcerer. We'll go from there.
So perfect. That's an easy choice. You pick a sorcerer, level 1, pretty straightforward. That will help with, it'll tell you in the player's handbook, what your primary stat will be. So for a sorcerer, you want charisma.
Right.
So that'll help when you pick your stats in a couple steps. You're a caster, so you're not going to have armor to worry about. So when you're picking your equipment later, it'll help you out there. You're not going to really care about weapons because you're a spellcaster, so that's another thing you don't have to worry about later on.
Fair enough. Makes sense. What's the next step then after I pick my class, my role in my class? So you pick your class.
Next, I would roll into your ancestry. Now, there's no which race. We're going to move into the word ancestry these days. There's no wrong race to pick or ancestry to pick. Your ancestry gives you, as of right now with the player's handbook, gives you some plus to certain stats and some certain abilities. Take, for example, if you pick a mountain dwarf, you would get +2 to strength, +2 to constitution, but also give you the ability to wear, which your sorcerer wouldn't have, but because you picked mountain dwarf, you can now wear medium and light armor. Typically, you wouldn't be able to.
So would that be like a battle mage kind of thing? Is that the fantasy you're going for there?
Well, yeah, that'd be it. Like if you want to be that little bit of a tougher, you don't want to be that glass cannon, right?
Right, for sure.
The downside of that picking a mountain dwarf is you don't have that bonus to charisma that being a tiefling or being like even a human with your +1 to everything would give you.
Right. And something that I learned when I made my first character was that coming from a raiding guild in World of Warcraft was you play your character and you got a stat, you got your secondary stats, and you try to min-max even as a casual player. As a caster, as a wizard or a mage, you're not going to take strength gear. So for me, when I made my first character, it was full on min-max. It was dex, everything. I didn't care about anything else. And then I started failing like any like charisma or intelligence checks, which is hilarious as a ranger. But I made that mistake, and that's kind of what, if I could tell one person that's getting into to D&D again, for the first time, I would say don't min-max your first character. Make everything balanced and try and play around with it, right?
There's two things I would say to that. So on one hand, you don't want to or not that you don't want to min-max. There's nothing wrong with min-maxing. There's nothing not wrong with role play. One does not negate the other. They're both equally valid. The thing is, we're here to play D&D, which, 3/4 of these books up here behind my head, wherever they are, have to do with killing monsters, right? Yeah. This is a game about fighting things. It's also a game about role play, but most of the rules are about fighting stuff, rolling dice and doing damage.
Mm-hmm.
So while it might be fun to have that role-playable character with a good backstory, you also want to be able to, when you cast a fireball, you want that fireball to do some damage.
Yes.
Right?
I think
you're going to be fighting monsters.
It's definitely a good balance, obviously, but I just want to make sure that I think that if you min-max, you need to know that you're going to be bad at certain things. And those certain things are going to be half the game.
Half the game, 100%.
So, yeah.
So yeah, after you pick your ancestry.
Before we go any further, hold on. So I've got this. This helped out. This helped out big time when we first started. Till you gave us this. These cards. They are from Matt Colville. Yes. They're from Matt Colville, and they basically give like a really, really 30,000 foot view of all the different classes, and then the ancestries. At that point in time, they were races, so that's the cards still say that on it, and just little details about it. So it allows you to make that decision of like, okay, I see, however many subclasses and classes there are. I'm completely overwhelmed. I don't know what I want to play. I knew I wanted to play a ranger because I played a hunter in World of Warcraft. But for example, for Anna, when she started playing, she hadn't played World of Warcraft at that point in time. So she hadn't played any fantasy games. So she didn't know where to start. So these cards were super, super helpful in allowing us to be able to pick. We'll also link these as well. He's got them on his Google Drive, I believe it is.
Yep.
Let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit so we can actually see. That's too much. So all they do is they just say, your most important stat, strength. Your second most important, constitution as a barbarian. What kind of armor you can carry, what kind of weapons, and then what your saves are. And then pick 2 of your saves or your skills on the right-hand side, and a sample gear that you would start with. It gives you your main 2 identifying skills or spells that you can use. And then also your hit dice up top is a D12. So as a barbarian, usually if you're stronger, you can roll bigger dice. The same thing for the paladin, right? They're all in here. They're super, super helpful. Plus they give you a little illustration there too. So, the game is partially about role play. Who do you see yourself playing? Who do you want to pretend to be for a couple hours once a week, right?
Oh, exactly.
The cleric, the druid with the little bird on his shoulder.
And they're pretty helpful. They're well done. Matt Colville's put some money into this stuff, right? So, thankfully, he also likes to give stuff out for free.
He does. And Matt Colville has not sponsored this stream either.
No. But yeah, so that gets you these stat cards. Like you said, they help you with your class and your ancestry. After that, you want to. This is when you want to get into this. You start the numbers start happening, right? So you got to pick your stats.
I want my sorcerer to be for the record, I want the sorcerer to be a half orc, since we were talking about it earlier. I want a smart half orc. Cool. So you said we're gonna pick our stats. What's I know there's a couple different ways. I've only ever done it once. So
there's 100 of homebrew ways. The book gives you a few options. There's what they call the standard array. Basically just gives you 6 numbers, right? So you got your strength, you have your dex, you have your constitution, you have your intelligence, your wisdom, and your charisma. So standard array gives you a 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8. Those correspond to certain numbers. So obviously you want to put the bigger number with the stat that you care about, the lower number with the stat that you don't really care about.
So as a sorcerer, I would want to put my biggest number where?
Charisma. That'd be your charisma. And then after there, you probably want to go dexterity because that will help with your AC, or your constitution because that goes with your health. Rule, and I don't know if it's rule number 1, but an important rule of D&D, never put your lowest number in constitution. Everybody needs constitution. Everybody. But and also don't worry about having an 8. Like, so an 8 would equate to a -1 on the table. It's something we'll talk about a bit later. Just because you have a lower than average stat, I mean, doesn't mean that your character, if you put an 8, so you have a -1 in intelligence, doesn't mean your character's an idiot. They may be a little not as bright as other people, but doesn't mean they can't read or write. They might have trouble with calculus, but simple arithmetic and that kind of stuff is fine.
Fair enough.
So your standard arrays is your easy way to do it. There's a point buy system. It's a little bit more complicated. It gives you a certain number of points, and you can put them where you want. Still with the highest of 15, lowest to 8. But you can, that way I think you can have 3 15s and 3 8s if you really want to min max. And then you can get into the risky way of doing things, which is you roll 4 6-sided dice, and you drop the lowest number. So let's say you roll, a 6, a 4, a 3, and a 1. You would drop the 1. And you would add the 6, 4, 3, and you'd have a 13. And that would be your stat.
Well, why don't I roll for stats right now?
You're a little echoey.
Sorry. I said, why don't I roll for stats right now?
There you go.
I had the next section queued up. I apologize. All right, yeah. So seeing as we have a dice roller, let's roll for stats for my half-orc sorcerer. So what'd you say? How many dice? What do I got to roll?
4d6.
All right. And drop the lowest, yeah?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4. Is that not the example you just gave? 6, 4, 3, and 1?
I don't know. It is, yeah. 6, 4, 3, 1. That's funny.
So I dropped the 1, and then...
Drop the 1.
So what would I do with the other 3?
You keep them. You just add them up. 13's your stats.
13's my stats. Cool. So we'll roll again. Actually, I should write this down.
Sure, if you want to.
13.
We do have 3 more steps to get to.
Oh, that's not good.
It's not terrible. It's average.
So that's a 7. So we dropped the 2.
Oh, yeah, that's less than average is right.
Not bad. Drop the 1, so we got a 12. And how many times do I got to do this?
3 more times.
Oh boy. 4, 2, 2, and 1. So we got an 8. I gotta roll high on the next couple here. Here we go.
That's
all right.
a good one.
6, 5, 3. Drop the 3. So that's a 14. This is not too bad. And 6, 5, 4, and 2. Here we go. 15.
There you go. Some good stats there.
Everybody on stream has seen this now. I can now use these stats in a game that he GMs.
No.
I 100% can. So I've got just to give an idea to kind of finish that off. So I've got a 15, a 14, a 13, a 12, an 8, and a 7. So the first one's going to go in, like you said, for a sorcerer, going to be my highest stat, which would be charisma. The next one would be, is there an off stat, or would the next one be constitution?
Constitution or Dex, whichever one you want.
Let's do a Dex because, like I said, I'm a min-maxer. And then we'll do the 13 in constitution.
Sure.
So I don't have to have intelligence or
Wisdom? Not for a sorcerer. They cast spells with the raw power of their force of will.
So a wizard would need intelligence. Gotcha. Cool. Very good. So that was always confusing to me as far as how to actually roll the characters and create them. So maybe now I'll actually remember. And like I said, I just rolled my sorcerer just then. You're gonna let me use him.
His stats are okay.
His stats were better than any character I've made before.
That's true. All right, so step 4. This is when we get into a little bit role play. We get out of the numbers. It's your backgrounds. Now there is some benefits to your background. Basically, they're where did your character come from? Do they come from a church? Are they an acolyte? Are they a sage? Were they a hermit? Were they a fisherman? A pirate? I mean, I don't know. So if you pick something like an acolyte, for example, I mean that would mean you spent your time leading up to being a level 1 character as a acolyte in a church, and that would give you some skills like insight and religions, the ability to be able to are people lying to me, how do people feel, and a few things about some religions, which would be helpful. Your time in the church would also have taught you a couple languages. You know, you learned your Latin and your Hebrew. I don't know, pick a couple languages. And then it also gives you some starting equipment. So, you know, you're a priest. So you have some holy symbols. You have some candles. You have, you know, vestments, incense. You have that kind of stuff, right? So while it is kind of a role play thing, it's certainly not something you want to skip because there is some mechanical choices too if you're more of a min-max inclined kind of person.
Right.
Those then kind of roll you into step number 5. And this is 100% role play. This is 100% optional, but I highly recommend it. It's your characteristics. So when you make an acolyte, it gives you 4 options. You have personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. Now they give you tables. You can roll dice to pick these, or you can just read through and choose which ones you want. For example, as an acolyte, as a personality trait, you could say, I've enjoyed fine wine, drink, and high society among my temple's elite. Rough living grates on me. So that means you're that right there. You have your character. They don't like being out in the woods. They want to stay in fancy inns. They want to, you know, spend that extra couple gold to, you know, not have to sleep by a campfire all night. And there, you know, there's your cleric. It's done. It's
Sounds like an elven cleric.
Right. The last thing you do is your starting gear and spells. This gets a little noodly, so again, high level. Your class, your backstory will give you choices. Like if you pick a sorcerer, for example, I think you get the choice between like a dagger or a staff. Not a magical staff, just a regular walking stick. That's it. I don't think it gives you any armor. Your backstory will, or your background will give you some gold to start off with, so you're not completely broke. And once you're done that, you're ready to go.
So
6 steps.
It's wild because when we first started, it seemed like such a insurmountable task, right? It's choose your role, and then from your role you get your class. Choose your ancestry. From there, roll your stats or choose your stats or however you want to do that. And then it's your, see if I remember this now. It's your personality, ideals, bonds, and flaws. No, your backgrounds first, and then your personality, ideals, bonds, and flaws. Then your starting equipment, and then you're done.
That's it. You're done.
There's one more step.
What's that?
This is the hardest one.
Oh, you got me stumped.
Picking a name.
Yeah.
Character selection screen takes me hours. It always takes me forever to try and choose a name for a new character.
Yeah, no, I hate it. My secret is I go to Tolkien Elvish and come up with a word. Like my first ever D&D character was called Ingwe, Engwe. I think you technically pronounce it Ingwe.
Ingwe.
In Elvish.
And he's a dwarf.
No, he was a half elf actually.
Your first character?
My first character was a half elf. You want to know what Ingwe means in Tolkien Elvish?
Hit me.
Thing.
Of course.
I don't know. It's a thing. We're going to play the thing.
I mean, you're not
First
wrong.
character was named Thing.
Fair enough. So what's our next segment here?
Oh man. So we'll see how this goes. We are going to have the Epic Showdown here now. And if you've never seen D&D before, which a lot of people haven't, should show you. We're going to do a showdown of a zombie versus a skeleton. The skeleton will be played by Paul. And the zombie will be played by me.
Yeah, we wanted... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's a little different because obviously, it's not a player versus player, but it's monster versus monster. The plan is you're kind of going to watch us play, see who comes out on top. You might learn a thing or two about how to run these monsters in your own games. Maybe see some strategies about how you can run them if you want to make your encounters a little bit more difficult.
We wanted to... we learned a lot. We tried this last week and just to see if it would work. And, we both learned a lot about the monsters as we kind of went. And, Tilly's a DM for the last 2 years. I've played for the last 2 years. I ran a one-shot with a bunch of these in them. And I still learned things about them. So it's helpful. It was helpful to us, at least.
You should have a drink there too, Paul, before you forget.
I should, because I'm a little empty.
Oh. This is growing on me. It's like,
Yeah?
I like that Riot Red is really good, but this Blinding Light's not bad either, you know?
For somebody who likes multi-beers, I'm impressed that you've said that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I did? I put my growler not back in the ice, but down on the floor.
I just don't have words, Paul.
Yeah, well, you know what happens.
It was a good plan. It was a good plan. Next week.
Are you all queued up for the roll 20?
Oh man, I'm there. I'm ready to go. We're gonna move over to roll 20s. If you've never seen roll 20 before.
So, do you want to give a rundown of what roll 20 is?
Yeah, so this is roll 20. It's an online D&D tabletop simulator. I guess in lieu of being able to play in person, you can use this as your kind of whiteboard. You can move your, you kind of put minis in for tokens. You can even roll dice on screen, which is very helpful.
It is super helpful. There's also a bunch of features that you can use as well, like dynamic lighting and all that kind of stuff. It is super simple to use. It's also as complicated as you want to make it. Till we found this little battle map, this little arena. And can we zoom in a little more here? There we go. So Tilly's going to start on the left. I'm going to start on the right. I am the skeleton. So one of the things that we didn't put up, we can certainly put it in the description or on our social media or something afterwards, was the stat blocks. Basically, so like I guess two of the signifying features or identifying features of two of these. The skeletons have the ability to, they've got a ranged weapon and a short sword as well. And they also have a higher AC. And what else? They've got more health too, isn't it?
Zombies have more health, skeletons have less health.
Right, but they've got
skeletons
a higher AC.
have a higher AC, zombies have a lower AC. But zombies do double damage to skeletons because they are vulnerable to bludgeoning.
Vulnerable to bludgeoning. And also, when they drop to one hit point or 0 hit point.
Yeah, when they drop to 0, there's a chance they come back to 1. Are you ready, Paul?
I'm ready.
Bring up your dice.
Who goes first?
We're going to roll for initiative.
Where's my dice to? Over here, right? Advanced dice roller. Can I just leave this open? That's what we're going to do.
All right. I'm going to roll my d20 with a -2 modifier for my initiative. Zombie.
Cause zombie. I need to get the stat block up here. I brought up the zombie stat block instead of the skeleton.
14, Paul.
That's with a -2?
That's with the -2. It is on.
All right. First things first, I want to ask the chat that's on here right now who they think's going to win. Skeleton or the zombie. And don't say Tilly or me. It's the skeleton or the zombie. All right. So,
Oh,
so
we got a zombie.
What's my initiative? It's minus.
Yours is +2 for your initiative. That's
So it's Constitution, right?
Dex.
Jeez, I should know this. So
Yeah, zombie Carl.
Zombie.
I'm not gonna lie. Well, we'll talk about it after.
All right, so we do roll 1d20 +2, and
Crap.
18.
Balls.
All right, so as a skeleton, I do have a ranged attack, so winning that initiative roll is super helpful for me. So my roll to hit is.
I wonder if you're gonna hit with my whopping 8 AC, Paul.
Right.
Whopping.
8 AC, and I have a +4 to my short bow.
Miss.
So 1d4 or 120 plus 4, and I'll does 11 hit.
Yes, an 11 hits. Thank you very much. Roll your damage.
I always get so saucy whenever I know something hits. I apologize, but also not really. So the damage on a short bow is 1d6 plus 2 piercing damage. So we're going to roll that. And does 5 damage to you.
5 damage.
5 damage.
It's all right. I got lots of hit points. I got this.
And now it's your turn.
Oh, so everyone who picks zombies, now's the time to be sad. Because the zombie only has 20 feet of movement. So I have to use my movement to go 5, 10, 15, 20. Each square is 5. I'm still not there, so I'm going to use my action to move again for 5, 10, 15, 20. And I'm going to use my bonus action to be sad.
Can you take a defensive stance?
Not as a bonus action.
As an
Zombies
action.
can do whopping nothing as a bonus action.
Gotcha.
But he looks upset.
And it's my turn?
It is back to you, skeleton friend.
So it's 1d20 plus 4 to hit again.
Yep.
And a 6 does not hit. I rolled a 2.
Yes! All right, everybody.
So now we're back even again.
Now it's I mean, you could try to move if you wanted to provoke that attack of opportunity.
I was just about to do that, but now it looks like I'm only going to do it because you said I was going to. I should do it. How much movement do I have again? 60 feet. No, that's
30.
census.
60 feet. What are you, a monk skeleton? Come on, dude.
Maybe I am. With the changes to, I'm invoking Tanshar? The new rules.
New rules. I don't think that works for monsters. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on. So diagonal movement. Remind me how the diagonal movement works.
So in 5e, they took away, like everybody knows their math, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. To make life easier in 5e, they took away the angle movement. So even if you move on an angle, it still only costs 5 feet. I like to use the old 3.5 rules, but I think it might have been 4th edition rules too, where every second angle costs an additional 5 feet. So the first square you move on an angle is 5, the next square costs you 10, so it'd be 15 total. Let's stick to Ra for this and go 5 regardless.
For each diagonal?
Yeah.
So 5, 10, 15, 20.
Well, before you leave, I'm rolling an attack of opportunity.
Sure. So whenever you move,
slam you. Because you're going to try to move out of my range.
so whenever anybody moves out of the melee range of a character, you get an attack of opportunity. Whoever is being left behind.
So my zombie can attack anywhere within these 5 squares around. So my 1d20 plus 3 to hit. Oh, big numbers here, people. Think big numbers. Oh, 11.
Do you want to know what my AC is?
Sure.
It's 13. He misses. So I get to go 5, 10, 15, 20 feet away.
Sweet. Well, now it's my turn. And I'm coming after you. 5, 10, 15. Man, this zombie's getting a workout. And we're attacking you with a slam again, Paul. Are you ready?
Let's hear it. What do you got?
Oh! Come on! What?
I should have taken bets in the chat.
This is ridiculous.
All right, so it's my turn then, unless you're done, unless you want to use your bonus action to be sad again.
For those listening, that was a 7 to hit. Bonus action, continue being sad.
So I didn't mention this before, but as a skeleton, I do have a short bow. I do have the sword as well. That's the reason why I can hit him up close. If I didn't have the sword, then the short bow would be at disadvantage, correct?
Yes.
Cool. So roll to hit again. Does an 11 hit?
Yes.
I know it does. And I'm going to take
You're just
swing.
taking delight in asking that question, aren't you?
I am every single time.
It's like, I rolled a 30. Does that hit?
I do the same thing on my ranger. So 1d6 plus 2 and 3 damage.
All right. Hold on. Here we go. -3. Is that the end of your turn?
I can still move, no?
If you wanted to provoke that attack of opportunity.
Sure. I don't have very much health, though, so... I'll give you 2 chances to... See, this is the hard decision, right? Like, you could hit me now, and then move and hit me next turn, too.
I mean, I'm okay with you doing it.
What do you guys think? Should I move or not move? Because 13 health is like, you can hit me twice and I'll be dead. Right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You could kill me next turn. All right. I'm not getting any votes in the chat, and I want to move, so I'm anxious here. Just stay and dash next turn.
Listen, why do you get help from chat?
'Cause
Didn't you guys vote for me?
exactly, because they all thought that you were gonna win. No, I'm gonna roll the dice. Pardon the bad pun. 1 or 5, 10, 15, 20.
All right, attack of opportunity. Oh, 17.
See?
Does that hit?
You jerk. Yes, it hits. It beats my AC of
So I'm going to
13.
remind you that this is a 1d6 plus 1 bludgeoning damage, which for you is doubled.
Right.
So theoretically here, folks, I could almost one hit him. Almost.
Before I leave, I'm going to come back here. I'll be on the side of you trying to escape.
Big number.
Natural 1.
That's 4 damage to you, sir. Take it. If you don't know, if you're vulnerable to damage, it means you take double. If you're resistant to damage, it means you take half.
So where was that? 5, 10, 15, 20. And 25? Yeah.
Where you going?
There you go.
What?
I have 30 feet movement.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Man, I should have kept the diagonal rule in place.
This is why I asked.
I can't catch you now, I don't think. 5, 10, 15. Oh, yes, I can. All right, Paul.
Oh, I did the math wrong.
All right, Paul. Here it comes. Are you ready to die?
No. I'm already dead. I'm a skeleton.
Oh, nat 20!
Oh gosh, Nico.
So for those of us that play with us, know what happens when anybody rolls a nat 20 at our table. And it's a drink. So cheers.
Cheers.
So what happens when you roll a nat 20 on a hit?
So, nat 20 means I double the dice. You don't add the modifier, so it's a 1d6 plus 1. So now this is going to be a 2d6 plus 1. And then because you're vulnerable, you take double.
Dun, 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 dun. And that's it.
Victory for the zombie! Woo!
I blame chat. They jinked me. So he rolled a 11. He rolled a 4 and a 6 plus 1, which is 11, but it's also double damage, so that's 22. So I ended the fight with minus 13, and I only had 13 health.
Yeah, so like the problem with the zombie is like they don't do. I mean, they have a lot of hit points. They don't have any ACs. They're getting hit every time, but their movement's really slow. So I mean, your idea to move is not a bad one, but you're provoking a lot of extra attacks, right?
Yeah.
Probably not the move I would have made. But I ran the stats on this fight, like put the stat block into a sim. It was actually 52% chance the skeleton would win. So that's actually a pretty even fight at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we ran it a couple times last week. So this is the third time that we've run it. What was the first one? The first one, skeleton won.
Yeah.
Second one, zombie won. And now this is the third one, zombie won.
Third zombie.
But the second one was close. The second one is a lot closer,
yeah.
I remember.
We were duking it out for like, I can't remember what it was.
Like 25 minutes or something.
Yeah, a long while.
That's right. So next week we're going to do something. We're going to do a different CR. We're going to do a different set of monsters. We might do a poll for people in chat. We might do it on social media to see if we pick a CR of 3 or something like that. We can put a couple there and we can have people vote on it. So that way we can kind of have people a little bit more involved. If that's something that our followers would be interested in doing and taking part, I think it'd be kind of fun. And it also puts us at the mercy of them, which I don't know is a good thing or a bad thing. But so we'll do we have next week's decided? Or are we going to do that, or are we going to announce
I
that
was thinking next week we go with this time we did undead, so I think next week we'll just do beasts. So a constrictor snake versus a giant badger, because that's hilarious.
For anybody that gets the joke, let us know. Very good. So so that was like I said, we wanted to kind of incorporate a little bit of D&D, actual D&D into the stream instead of just us talking about it. So we're going to try and do that every week. And we don't know what the answer is going to be beforehand. But now we know, and the chat got it right, much to my disappointment.
Hilarious.
What's our next section?
So I scoured the player's handbook. I'm working my way through the DM's guide, because I'm going to be honest, I only kind of read through these things from cover to cover a couple weeks ago, because they're big books. I recommend you reading them if you're going to get into D&D. But there's a lot of little rules in there that you might not be aware of. Just small little details. So this is our rules you may not know segment. Certainly rules I didn't know, or might have knew but didn't know exactly how they worked.
I want to get a different animation for just a really bad rainbow and a chorus rules you may not know across the screen.
I would love that. So this week we're going to do, in no particular order, these are actually kind of two different rules. So one's on page 195, the other one's on 292 for all those with your player's handbook following along. It has to do with ranged attacks in close combat. So the idea behind it is if you're using a bow or a crossbow, or you're going to cast a spell that has a ranged attack on it, and the person you're trying to attack is within 5 feet, so in the next square, or an ally of an enemy you're trying to attack is within 5 feet of you, your attack is at disadvantage. It means you roll 2 d20s and you take the lowest number. The reasoning behind this is that I guess it's harder to aim a bow when someone's standing right next to you, swinging a sword at you, trying to grab at you. I know in D&D kind of turns, I take a turn, you take a turn, but in theater of the mind, it's all happening at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, they're swinging their sword at you while you're trying to notch an arrow and shoot at somebody, which is difficult, I would imagine. I've never done it.
And technically each turn is only 6 seconds for movement, action, bonus action, everything. So
everything happens 6 seconds.
If you can knock an arrow and shoot and hit somebody with everything else going on and whatever your bonus action and everything is in less than 6 seconds, then you should be winning some sort of competitions for archery.
Sure should.
Right.
And I wanted to add to this. There's a little caveat to this one too. Just because it's about range attacks. If you're shooting a creature, so let's say your resident fighter or monk is up front and knocks a player over, so they're prone, they're lying down on the ground. While that would give the melee attackers advantage because they're easier to hit while they're lying down, it gives your ranged attacks disadvantage because they're lying down, they're harder to hit, harder to see, less of a target.
Which I didn't know as my ranger for a long time, and I was like, oh, they're prone, I got advantage, perfect. And then I was disappointed, but it makes complete sense, just like everything in D&D does.
Well, it also makes, if everything was equal and it was just as efficient to shoot a bow from behind your tank, your meaty barbarian, everyone would want to be ranged, because not only are you doing damage when you're in the back, safe and sound.
No,
so
100%.
This kind of balances the scales a bit between your melee and your ranged.
No, definitely.
Classic.
For sure. And it just makes sense. And I that was the rule that I mentioned earlier during the battle between the zombie and the skeleton. I couldn't use my bow when you were up in my face.
That's right.
So if the bow was, and now thinking back, if the bow was maybe a 1d6 plus 2 or 1d6 plus 3, it was more enticing for me to use the bow instead of the short sword. then it would make more sense for me to move first, take that attack of opportunity, get away from you, and then take the shot.
Potentially.
So there's the rules you may not know. The first one that we done.
The bane of hunters.
The bane of
rangers everywhere.
The bane of rangers. I remember World of Warcraft in vanilla when they had a minimum range for ranged weapons, and in classic for anybody that's playing classic.
Terrible.
Oh, I hated it. So the next section I'm a little bit nervous about.
You got chat to help you out, though. It's okay.
Do you want to explain this one, or will I explain it?
So one of the things I did noticed, and anyone who's ever DM'd before, if you want to put a puzzle in, a riddle, anything like that, finding those things is not easy. And then, how to run them in your game too is a little tricky as well. So the idea was we'd find some puzzles from the internet that we've either used before or have found and thought they were neat. And the idea is each week we'll alternate. So this week I'm going first. I will read a puzzle. We'll put up a 5-minute timer because we don't want this to take all day, because Lord knows some puzzles can take hours in an actual D&D game. And we'll see if you can get the answer. And it'll give you an idea how to explain puzzles, how to answer questions on them, and just see how they'd work in your game, maybe.
All right. Again, I'm nervous, but there's also a rule that we decided that if you can't get it after a certain amount of time, we can ask the chat for help. Kind of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You can phone a friend, but it's or poll the audience, I guess.
You guys can help. It's fine.
So I haven't seen this at all. Tilly's sent me the puzzle, the link to it, but I haven't opened it. I promise. And I'm looking at it right now for the first time, as you are.
So technically speaking, you have seen this before. But it was in a game we played a couple years ago. Aaron, Anna, Jess, if you remember, you're not allowed to help. But
apparently we didn't get it. So the four of us couldn't get it.
This is called the Dance of Doors. Now, you had the Reddit page up there. It's a guy named Scooter Skittles came up with it. I have a little bit of a slightly different version that came out of the Google, that I put on the Google Drive we have there.
Do you want me to grab that instead?
Grab that one instead if you can. Because the last line of the puzzle didn't make sense. So chat helped him edit it. But I'll explain the setting. This would be a good one to use. I think I used it in a wizard tower, so there's all kind of weird magic going on. Your players will enter a room, and when they do, an anti-magic field will trigger. That means no spells. And in front of them is 7 doors. All the doors are identical, except each of the door handles, the doorknobs, are different. From left to right, you see a clear glass knob, hollow and thin, like a light bulb, but empty. An ivory knob, slightly speckled, round and smooth. A reddish-brown wooden knob with paisley-like carvings. A scuffed-up brass knob cast into the visage of a troll. A papier-mâché knob made to look like parchment crumpled into a ball. A reddish-brown wooden knob with paisley-like carvings. And an oval sandstone knob, coarse and gritty.
Oh dear. Does anybody have any ideas?
Okay. I'm going to read you the riddle.
First off, the puzzle document. I only see
Dance of Doors.
Yeah, that's the one that I had out.
Oh, I bet you I didn't share it with you. Okay, go back to the other one. That's fine.
All right. Just tell me which one is different.
It's just the last one.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, I'm going to read. Are you listening?
For better or worse, yes.
All right. So written somewhere inside this room, probably on a wall next to the doors, there's these following lines. Keep scrolling down. Scroll down.
So these are the 7 knobs that are in a row?
Yep.
Those
up top
described.
are meant to indicate the doors with the numbers.
Gotcha.
So left to right is 1 to 7.
Gotcha.
And then you read the following. The dance of doors, a merry time for all. 6 are cruel and punishing, but 1 is your windfall. This useless rhyme and waltz cannot begin until you stand facing the rightmost twin. Now I give you first of only 2 useful clues. The door before you is a deadly one to choose. Sidestep left until you reach what's from the elephant's head, then sidestep right again, but half that distance instead. See how far you are into the failed writings of a frustrated bard. Double your distance from it, if that's not too hard. Now it's time to turn, but not a knob like you're inclined to, but instead yourself until the door is behind you. Move to the left 2 doors, now face your new partner. Move 3 doors to the right and bow. You're quite the charmer. There we go, it's over. Thank you for the dance. You honor me, the riddle writer, by giving me this chance. This is the different part. You have no answer? I wish your mind not unraveled. Instead, consider taking the path less traveled.
Hit me with that last one once more.
You have no answer? I wish your mind not unraveled. Instead, considering taking the path less traveled.
Gotcha. So it says move to the left 1 door. Now face your new partner. The third last one. You said 2 doors and then move to the doors.
I did,
to
yeah.
the right.
I did, yeah. I did say
so
2
that's
doors.
that's changed as well?
Yep.
Okay. Remind me of that when I get to that stage.
I will. Are
Okay.
you ready?
I'm ready. So our 7 doors, we've just walked in. And these are the descriptions. Hit me up. We started?
Yep.
Cool. So you can give me updates on time. I don't have the timer up on screen because I have to have this up on screen. Dance of Doors, a merry time for all. 6 are cruel. 6 are going to hurt me. 1 is the one that's going to get me through. This useless rhyme and waltz can't begin until you stand facing the rightmost twin. So the rightmost. So there's
I'm gonna get a piece
2
of paper
reddish.
to work this.
So there's 2 reddish ones, right?
That is correct.
Is that the only 2 that are similar? Left to right. Yeah, so there's only 2 that are similar. So the leftmost twin, did I read that? Or the rightmost twin is the reddish brown one. So that's
1
number
minute.
6. Really? All right, so I got to start at number 6. We good?
Sure, if that's what you think.
Now I'll give you the first to use for clues. The door before you is the deadly one to choose. So not 6. We've canceled out number 6. Sidestep left until you reach what's from an elephant head. So that's ivory. So if I'm at 6, I sidestep left until I get to number 2. Okay, so that's that one. Then sidestep right again, but half that distance instead. So I moved 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go over 2 to number 4. Okay. So, and number 4 is scuffed brass. And what's the next one? See how far you are to the
2
failed
minutes.
writings of a frustrated bard. Double your distance from it if that's not too hard. Paper mache, crumpled. Okay, so that's number 5. So number 5 is directly to my right because I'm at number 4. And it said double your distance from it. So that's move back left 2 because it's 1 away. Now is the time to turn, but not a knob like you're inclined to, but instead yourself until the door's behind me. So I'm going to spin around and face away from number 2. Move to the left 1 door. I turned my sheet upside down. Move to the left 1 door.
2 doors.
No, sorry, this is the part. Thank you. 2 doors. Now face your new partner. So I spin around. I'm at number 4 again. Where am I? Face your new partner. Move 2 doors to the right. So I'm back at number 6 now. And Val, you're quite the charmer. There we go. It's over. Thank you for the dance. You honor me, the riddle writer, by giving me this chance. Now hit me with the last line again.
You have no answer. I wish your mind not unraveled, instead considering the path less traveled.
So which ones did I not go to? Oh no. There's two. I didn't go to number 1 or number 7. Oh, an oval sandstone knob, coarse and gritty, or a clear glass knob, hollow and thin like a light bulb but empty. Those are the two ones that I didn't go to. Now I may have screwed that up, but those are the two ones that I didn't go to. How much time do I got left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm going to read that last line again because I don't have it in front of it.
You have no answer. I wish your mind not unraveled, instead considering the path less traveled.
All right. I'm going to have to consult the chat here. I've got two options. I got a 50-50 chance. Unless you guys have been following along at home. Do I go with number 1, a clear glass knob, hollow and thin like a light bulb, but empty? Or number 7, an oval sandstone knob, coarse and gritty. Those are the only two that I didn't stand in front of. It was the rightmost twin. So there's 2 reddish brown wooden knobs. So the rightmost twin was number 6. All right, I've got 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Last chance. Let's hit our votes. Number 1 or number 7?
Who knows?
Because it could be, because I'm thinking the road less traveled, a clear glass knob.
If I changed move 3 doors to the right to 4 doors to the right.
Oh, you son of a... So 2 doors to the right here?
Yeah, change that to 4.
Oh shit, where was I at that point in time? So I ended up on... All right, number 1. I turned number 1.
Psst.
Did I die? Did I die? Oh. So what was the answer then? Was it number 7?
Number 7. So the way it works is you start at number 6 because you stand facing the rightmost twin. That was right. Now I give you one of 2 only useful clues. The one ahead of you is deadly. So that means that really the rest of the clues don't really matter. This one's right and the last one is right because you want to make sure you pick the one you didn't go to, and you were right with that one, which is good.
Right.
You sidestep until you reach what's from an elephant head, which is number 2.
Uh-huh.
And you sidestep right again, but half that distance. So like you said, go back to number 4.
Yeah.
And then you see how far you are from the failings of the barred crumpled paper, double your distance. So now you're back to number 3.
Yeah.
You turn around and you move 2 doors to the left, which puts you at number 5. Right? And then now you move 4 doors. You turn back around and you turn 4 doors to the right.
And that puts me at number 1.
And that puts you at number 1.
Yeah.
And then the only one you didn't go to is number 7.
I got you. So I failed the first inaugural puzzle challenge.
That was a hard one. I think when I put that in our actual game, I believe I made it. It's like, I think the way it worked is it wasn't instant death. It was like so many D6 force damage for every doorknob wrong. And I think Jess just gave up all her hit dice until she found the right one.
Right. Yep.
It worked.
Well, thanks, chat. Somebody told me to take the clear one, and I did not. Or I did take the clear one.
Yeah, the last couple lines, I kind of had to change them around because the guy who made it, good idea, Scooter Skittles, but I don't think he logicked it out quite right.
Didn't logic it out, yeah. No, it's good. It's fun because that makes you kind of think, and it's, you know, the puzzles are a lot of fun in a D&D campaign because it's not just about rolling dice. It's about actually thinking and being smart in game, and working together as a team too, to kind of build a little bit of team morale. So we're running a little bit late here. Did you want to skip to the art?
Sure. Let's skip to the art.
To the art. Cool. So when we talked about this last week, we wanted to feature some of the really awesome art that we have in the D&D community. As you can see over both of our shoulders here, we are featuring some awesome art.
I did it right the first time.
Nicely done. from the artist that actually did all the branding for our stream and everything. And that's our wonderful, lovely Anna. We appreciate her. We had something else chosen for this first art feature.
That'll be next week. This one was amazing.
This one will 100% be next week. But
Anna Bullock Design did this.
There was going to be a full shout out. I'm actually bringing up her Instagram page because that's where it is. So last week in the post show, in the after show, Hops and Dragons After Dark, as we are sitting here drinking beer for at that point, I think it was 2 hours, we had to use the bathroom very, very quickly after we were done.
Who had to use the bathroom very, very quickly after we were done?
I had to use the bathroom very quickly. We'd clued up the episode very, very quickly. And the second it was done, the second that last title screen went across, I jumped and just kind of ran out and left an empty camera running. So Anna thought that it would be very funny if she designed a Be Right Back screen, and decided to keep it very much on brand. And I believe that she did. So this week's the first Hops and Dragons art feature is from Anna Bullock Design, and it is our next art screen. It is a dragon sitting on a toilet.
I like to think it's a you dragon sitting on the toilet.
It's a total me dragon sitting on the toilet, and I absolutely love his shirt too. It's like 90s, like speckly, kind of like neonish. It was awesome, and we're going to incorporate it in the stream if we ever, in the after show or pre-show, if we ever have to step away from the camera. It will be our now waiting Be Right Back screen. I absolutely love this.
Make sure your legs aren't going dead. Stop scrolling at some point. Yeah,
right. And the actual screen itself that she's done for us says Be Right Back, which is great. So if you do want to give her a follow, if you want to check her out on Facebook or Instagram, her Facebook is Anna Bullock Design, and her Instagram, as you can see here, is acolleen221. She posts a ton of art, and she's super awesome at it. Like I said, she's done everything that we have, everything that you see as far as art goes for the stream. She's done a lot of it, and we certainly appreciate her and what she does. For sure. So that brings us to the end of our first episode. Episode 0 last week was just kind of a dipping our toes in. This is the first full official episode. Thanks to everybody that showed up. Thanks to everybody that followed. We appreciate you all. If you do want to keep in touch with us outside of the stream, because we do only stream once a week right now, we are on all the social media. You can see it down at the bottom of the screen. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Obviously, we're here on Twitch. We do have a YouTube channel, which we do take the videos and cut them up as well into smaller segments. Not the full. Moving forward, it won't be the full episode. But if you do miss it, and you can't catch it on Twitch, the video on demand, we will have it on YouTube afterwards. We will have the full episode. In the YouTube episodes, we do have all the links to our sponsors. We have to do all the links to, for example, for the art features that we do, all the links to our social media and everything as well. They are down in the doobly-doo. And you can certainly follow us there. That's all did I get it all, or did I miss it this time?
No. So next week, I'm going on vacation to go see my mother and father-in-law. So next week we're going to take off, but we'll be back on September 24th for our regular little stream. And the plan for next week is the game we're planning on streaming is Baldur's Gate 3, which early access is coming out on September 30th. So next week we're going to take some time to look at cinematic for that and kind of just talk a couple lore points of that. Get a bit of hype ready for it, because I don't know, when I watched that cinematic, I was super hyped.
Oh, me too. I didn't know anything about Baldur's Gate franchise before that, and I saw it and I was like, I'm buying it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. If you haven't watched it, well, wait for us in a couple weeks. We'll watch it then. Other than that, today we talked about the way to make character for the first time. So the next in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about how to make an encounter. You know, if you're going to be a first-time DM, it's probably the first thing you're going to do is how many monsters do you throw at those pesky adventurers? And like I said, next week's battle is a constrictor snake versus a giant badger.
And let us know in the comments in the chat if you know what that reference is to. Thanks everybody for signing on. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next week. Stick around for the after show if you want. We're just going to hang out and read through our chat and engage a little bit. All right. Drink responsibly. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, so an hour and 32 minutes.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is.